I guess I should speak to this. I think I had some significant revisions to the policy to begin with, or the last version. And so for the people that weren't at the policy review meeting, they didn't hear my rationale. So just briefly, what I've thought is that recently we've sort of lost control of some of the public forum, and the public forum's become, I think, to many of us, it's become almost what we would call a YouTube theater. And we know people are getting up there and then being filmed, being videoed and sent out to YouTube, and that's fine. I mean, that's what they want to do, but I can see that the intent is a little bit beyond what public forum's probably designed for. And there's plenty of ways to get in touch with us. So that combined with the lack of proper demeanor, showing the audience and us a proper amount of respect, I thought that some of the revisions that I offered would be a good idea. And the main one being, probably besides the time change, the slight time change, was that I thought that the requirement for them to sign up 24 hours in advance, and that would give, and then sign the document, sign the policy saying, yes, I've read this, I agree to these behavioral standards, so to speak, that we have set forth for the public to speak, and I agree to them. And so it gives us, I think it gives the speakers an opportunity to reflect both on what they're saying and how they're saying it, and what we expect, and that's kind of a good teaching moment, I think, for some people, unfortunately. But that's the purpose, to give us more control, but not to suppress anybody's ability to speak. So that was kind of the rationale for the people that hadn't been here. Thanks.
All right. Ms. Christie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only concern is, I guess, in policy review, I thought the online form was in addition to what was also listed here. I didn't know that the form was going to replace that. I thought they would still be able to sign up with the vice chair the day of the meeting, and I hate to restrict or make it harder for people to come and speak.
All right. Ms. Horn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's one of the things that I also had noticed, Ms. Christie, that, I think that we definitely need to have the ability for people to come and sign up right before our meetings. And there are times that we've had additional information that has been added to our agenda that the public is made aware of, late. And so there could be an occasion that something's been added that they wouldn't have had. Typically that wouldn't happen, but it's possible. So I think we need to have that ability for them to be able to sign up at the beginning of our meetings also.
All right. Let's see. Ms. Owen?
I just have a question for the law department. Thinking about freedom of speech, can we limit how things are said?
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Madam Chair. The board does not have to have public forum. Public forum is is not called for in the state statutes. So public forum is a creation of the board. As far as wanting to have proper decorum and proper, discipline. For the law department's stance would be, that falls in line with what is expected in the board's schools. So that's not a problem at all, as long as you, if the board is going to have public forum, which the board has had public forum, obviously, for quite some time, that you're not limiting opposing points of view. I mean, that would be a restriction on free speech, but certainly free speech has its limits, and speech that incites or vulgarities, things of that nature, are not rights under the First Amendment. Thank you.
Ms. Self?
I had a question about the format of the form. It says that the form may be obtained online and you can complete it online. So is it something that it has to be printed and filled out and then sent online, or is there an option like a Google form where they can complete it online? Because I just have a concern about students especially ones who don't have a lot of access to technology unless they're at school, or if their school has a limit on what kind of printing they can do, just their ability to fill it out. And if they're restricted to how they can fill it out, they might just decide not to speak at all.
All right. Let's see, is everyone... Do you have some comments about that, Dr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am. The form actually can be filled out online via computer and filled out that way, or you can do it via a hard copy and handwrite that information in, either fax it in or mail it in. But yes, it can be filled out via computer.
Thank you.
All right. Any other? I see Mr. Norman. I would like to make a comment in regard to this. I too share your concern, Ms. Christie and Ms. Horn, about taking the ability away to sign up the day of or right before a meeting, especially given the fact that sometimes information is rather late in being attached to the agenda just because it's what it is. It's certainly no one's fault intentionally. So I know that this was a revision that was talked about in policy review, and I guess I am asking if this is something, in addition to the three of us, that the board would be willing to take another look at that particular part. Also, we need to keep in mind that this is first reading, so we will be coming back next month on this also. Mr. Norman?
Okay, thank you. To a couple of those statements, Madam Chair. One, I think that it's almost never would a speaker come and be here or plan to speak and be affected. I don't think I've ever heard of it being affected by some late information coming in. It's always because they know what's on the agenda. It's an agenda item. It's been well published and so on. So I don't think that's a valid argument. And then to the point of people walking up, that's the whole issue. I have some concern with somebody who comes in here the day of the meeting and is maybe too emotionally involved. And I think the 24-hour period would give them time to, cool down, maybe if it's a hot topic, and reflect on how, and basically reflect on the content of what they want to say with the backdrop of how we would like for them to say it. And so I think it's just good policy. I think it would help our meetings go much smoother. And so I'm going to support it. Thanks.
Mr. McMillan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a point and then I guess ask the law director something. I guess I'll go ahead and ask you, ask the law director this first. Let me back up. I'm sorry. We have had people who have said they wanted to speak on one subject, and then when they got their time, they drifted off either immediately or, before they sat down, they got into something entirely different. That's one point. I guess my question to the law director would be, in order to, if the situation were to occur where something came up late that they really felt they needed to speak, as long as they stayed on that topic, would it be appropriate for the board at that point, before they were allowed to speak, to, take a vote? 3/4 of the board gives them the right to speak or whatever.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Madam Chair. So the answer to your question, Mr. McMillan, is yes. I mean, the board can certainly always take a vote and allow someone to speak on a particular topic. That would be a majority vote, because majority always rules. There wouldn't be a 2/3 or a 3/4 vote needed. And I think your other question was on a topic. So the current policy already limits speakers to agenda items at work sessions, but then on voting sessions, it's of topics of whatever interest the speaker has.
Okay. All right. In reference to the work sessions, if they did drift off, would it be appropriate for a board member to challenge that and the board to take a vote?
In terms of cutting the speaker off at that point?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying? Yes, that would be appropriate. I mean that would first come from the vice chair or the chair, and then but if an individual board member had a concern about that, I mean that individual member could voice that concern at that time.
Thank you.
Ms. Satterfield?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's not that much passion regarding this policy from me, but I want to kind of just lift up this perspective that there are times where there aren't any attached files to our agenda, and we have to wait on those. So I do agree with that. But possibly if we enforce this policy to where you can't sign up on the day of, then it could present a level of efficiency that's needed from our constituents to make sure that they're signed up the day before, and on our end as well, to make sure that our files are where they need to be, given the opportunities that are there. And so I think this might be an opportunity for the board to set that precedent top down, to say that we are a school system that is working on efficiency. So.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Owen?
I would just add that every call that comes in to sign up to speak has to be handled by Ms. Coatney. And so whether there may be 5 or whether there may be 50 or 87, she has to speak with each of those people and take all of their information, determine the topic, put them in the right place on the agenda, and then give them all of the rules that they need to follow. And that is a massive undertaking sometimes. I think we urgently need a way for people to sign up in addition to that phone call. And there have been some folks, some contacts I've heard who thought we were taking out the ability to call. And I want to make sure it's understood that that is still there for folks who cannot sign up online or prefer not to. But for people who can sign up online, it would just make it so much easier for everyone involved if they can have everything they need right in front of them and see it and know what they are expected to be speaking on, whether it is to be on the agenda or not on the agenda, and which meeting it is. The efficiency of that, I think we urgently need. That should not be considered a limitation. So I think that addition is definitely what we need. The limitations, not as much.
All right. Ms. Bounds?
Thank you. I definitely concur with Ms. Satterfield and Ms. Owen because I think what we're striving for is efficiency and taking part of the workload off of our board secretary so she is available to get all those documents together and to have all those things, supporting information and all that. So I think it is a change, and change is hard, but I do think that is the way the world's moving, and some boards just do it strictly online, and we've still got options there. So I like their idea of efficiency.
All right. I'm thinking we probably haven't heard the last of this. All right. Any other questions or comments at this point on that policy? All right.